Hello YouTubers, I'm Optimus Frank and welcome back to my channel. So I wasn't very happy with the Netflix Siege War for Cybertron, but I had to be honest, and if we're honest as fans, we can make their work better. That's just how I feel. But they can still turn around for Earthrise. I'm still optimistic about that because at least the toy line is incorporating characters who really didn't have a chance to play a big part in the continuity or haven't really been relevant in the continuity for years. I'm curious as to how they'll tie them all in. I wonder if they'll bring back Spike and his dad Sparkplug. And to be honest, I really forgot Spike's dad's name. I had to Google that. I almost went with Allen Wrench or something like Manifold Gasket. So for this review, I'll be reviewing one of those characters who I haven't seen for years. I'll be reviewing War for Cybertron Trilogy Earthrise Leader Class Doubledealer. And Doubledealer and I go way back. Now, I was around 4 children, and we broke a lot of our toys. I mean, I think I broke a fair share of them. But we never broke our G1 Doubledealer, because it was my older brother's, and he'd kick our asses if one of us even lost a piece. I mean, I think we lost it. I have no idea whatever happened to it. But it was awesome. I remember because it's like, as a poor kid, you know, in Jersey, it was the closest I ever got to having an Omega Supreme because I had that big giant rocket. In any case, I have no idea where it is now, but it was an awesome Transformer, and in all respects, this new version is just as awesome. I mean, it improves it has improvements from the G1 version, but its transformation is a blast from the past for me because it's so similar to the G1 transformation. And when I was a kid also, you know, having a triple changer was top. So Doubledealer was a Power Master, and it came with 2 little bots that would unlock transformations. One bot, Knock, was an Autobot, and the other, Scar, was a Decepticon. Doubledealer, as his name implies, plays both sides. I always figured that he was a mercenary of sorts, and in the G1, if you lost one of the bots, you couldn't unlock the corresponding transformation without breaking it or using a toothpick somehow. But instead of displaying this duality with Power Masters, he can change his allegiances in this version with shoulder flaps. Now, all of these colorful etchings on his legs and throughout his body used to be stickers. His robot mode was not as articulate as what you see here. He couldn't bend his knees, but with the addition of a pair of knee joints, he can. He dons both Autobot and Decepticon colors, surrounded by neutral green, black, and gray. He has Autobot red and blue. What says more Decepticon for me is the purple and his blue face with red eyes. He looks like he can't be trusted. And that's what I think they've always wanted to convey with this figure, be it Earthrise or G1. Both hit that nail on the head. They've taken away the Power Master bots, but have added weapons to make up for it. In the G1, aside from the little bots, he only had this rocket. It was all gray, and they added some paints and ports. The red and blue and silver most definitely improved the look. They didn't go all around with the blue and silver, though, but they did with the red, and it still looks good. It would break into 2 parts, much like this. They have improved on the back of the rocket, on the back part of the rocket. In the G1, the barrel looked square-shaped and stubby. Here, it looks more like a gun with a hollow barrel, but it has ports and pegs, 4 ports, also some mini pegs. So yeah, pimp it out. I mean, there's so much more to explore with this figure with lots of possibilities. He comes with what looks like a light machine gun, 2 mini rocket attachments, launch base for his rocket, and this little square-shaped satellite. And the satellite is a nice touch, especially if he's launching a rocket this size. It's going to need some guidance, so it isn't a simple rocket, but a guided rocket. The rocket's launching base can connect to other corresponding Earthrise figures. It also doubles as a sort of jetpack. I mean, Doubledealer is so versatile as far as a battlefield. He can also be considered a bounty hunter, if there is a difference between a bounty hunter and a mercenary. And it's because of this where on the back, the directions say to keep the wings folded in, but I like to fold it down because it gives him that Boba Fett, Jango Fett kind of look where he has the cape in the back. Small cape, but it looks pretty awesome. It gives him that bounty hunter, mercenary look. A major change or improvement for me in this version is his head. In the G1, his head was hollow or concave because it was the actual rocket holder in his alternate mode. It would not only make his head look bigger, but he would look like Frankenstein because his head would be out of proportion with the rest of his body. So his head-to-body ratio was a definite improvement to this Earthrise Doubledealer, but they engineered the attachment that is behind his head like a hoodie or a hooded sweater. So now he has a full head. Also, if you look at his abs, you'll notice an engine similar to Nock and his Power Master Nock, and it's removable. I haven't figured out where else to put it. Someone let me know in the comments if you know where else it can go. I'm still trying to figure it out. So to transform him into his vehicle mode first, his Autobot mode, first you want to remove all his weapons and put them to the side. Then, as always, I'd like to start at the fist. So I'm going to fold those in. And from here, I'm going to take his elbows, turn them in at 180, bend them back until they go into this peg that's right on his gauntlet or wrist. And then once you get them both snapped in, you're going to want to work on the legs, and you're going to want to fold out the flaps, not the ankle tilt, but the flaps. So it can be confusing a little bit, but yeah, just the flaps. So you turn about 90 degrees back, and then you want to fold the legs in. But I recommend you fold the legs in one at a time, because what's particular about his legs is that you have to push them in and peg them in. And depending on the transformation determines on where you peg them in. So here I'm working on pushing it in to get it in the right distance. So I'm pushing it in, and it's really an extra joint in the knee that enables you to push it in, which I think is genius. But yeah, and I'm pushing that in just to make sure it's in. You have to push the back of the knee in to make sure to close the distance between that little port, that rectangular port, and the peg. So it can be a little struggle, but yeah, once you have one side in, well, I have that one still working on that one side, and then you get the other side in, and then once you have both sides in, you can squeeze both legs together and make sure it's nice and tight. And then after you get that in, you can, what I like to do there is I like to make sure the wings are unfolded on the bottom, but I'll get to that in a minute. So yeah, you're going to want to take his chest plate, flip it out, turn it around, and just clip it in the front. Then you want to take his arms that are already set up, and then you want to fold them to the front. Try to separate the arms from the wheels because they're really attached there. So they're having a little trouble, you know, with the peg on the wrist and the shoulder. But once you have that there, it's good. And you want to fold that hoodie that I mentioned earlier forward, because that's going to be the rocket holder. So you take the rocket, you put it together, and you put it in there, and there's two little ports, and there you go. You have that. Now it's time to attach the weapons. So the directions say to put those little mini rocket launchers on the side there. As you see, I'm not sure which side is front, but I like to put the part with the smaller end in front. Then you add the satellite and the mini cannon. Then the launch pad goes in the back with these two little pegs right there. And, you know, it's a little, sometimes it's too tight, but it takes a second to squeeze in. At least mine is too tight. So I have to really push it in there to make sure it goes in. And yeah, those things come off loose. Those little base stands do come loose a little bit. They're on partial ball joints there. But once you do that, you fold in the launch pad, and it rolls real nice. Now, what I was saying about those wings is, you know, the directions tell you to fold them in, but I don't like it because it tends to bounce. You know, it doesn't really let the wheels touch the ground. So I fold them out, and then, you know, it's easier to roll and stuff. So here we have an 8-wheeled artillery rocket launcher. The rocket has a launch pad with satellite guidance. The launch pad has the stabilizers on the back sides, and it adds a bit of realism to the giant rocket launcher. But I figured they would have to add more weapons on this figure, because in the G1 all he had was that rocket, and once that rocket was launched, he used up all his ammo, hence all the other weapons. So here he is next to Leader Class Siege Ultra Magnus for a size comparison, Alpha Trion Restus Spark. But what Double Dealer may lack for in size, he makes up for in weaponry. He can always tell Ultra Magnus, "My rocket's bigger than yours," and end the fight before it begins. But one can argue that Ultra Magnus is outgunned, and I don't think Ultra Magnus is fast enough in this mode to dodge a satellite-guided rocket from any distance in the world, or whatever planet for that matter. His new colors really come together in the vehicle mode around the front of the vehicle. They also added another window to the driver's side of the car. I love how the purple, his Decepticon purple, blends in and is hardly noticeable. And the additional red and blue kibble attached to his chest plate really give the vehicle and the robot mode more presence or more bulk. In addition to the rocket, there are ports all around the vehicle, and with a transformer that comes already fully armed, adding weaponizer parts help it really go nuclear. The ports that are on his fists also bend at an upwards angle and can rotate in the port for better aiming. The etching all around this vehicle, his vehicle mode, is really beautiful. The little motor in it is also removable, like his old Power Master version. Like I said before, I don't know really where else to put it, but there's even etching under the motor if you take a peek right there. But yeah, the only thing that I do not like very much about his vehicle mode is in the back of the vehicle. When you bring the rocket back, when you connect it, it looks like his head is sticking out, and it looks like he's crowning out of the womb. Then when you stand the rocket up, and I'll stand it up in a second, but there it is, yeah. And then when you stand it up, let me put the rocket back on. But yeah, when you stand it up, you see his whole head, you know. Also, the rocket in this mode does not stay on tight. If only the shorter peg were not shorter, it would fit more securely. Other than that, this mode is very well done. So to change him into his Decepticon bird mode, first we're going to want to take off all the weapons and, yeah, start with the satellite, the gun and everything. Take out that rocket. And then remove that launch pad. Put it all to the side. And where do you start? Well, you can take off the chest plate, but on second thought, I'm going to restart to his robot mode because it's for you, the viewer, it's better for you to see what happens with his knee joints, his new knee joints. So first, I'm going to want to go Decepticon, and I'm going to want to flip those flaps over. Which is later going to hit me in the butt because I go back and I have to adjust them because they don't let the arms fold in properly. So once again, I'm going to fold in the forearms backwards into his the back of his shoulder. So yeah, you turn them into 180, flip them back, and make sure the peg goes into the hole there. Then to work on his legs, excuse me, I'm going to undo the flaps again. And I'm going to fold them back like the vehicle mode, but instead, I'm going to, as I fold them back, I have to push them in deeper. So I have to push the back of his knees in deeper to make sure, I'm going to push them in to make sure the black part connects with the blue part. So you'll see in the directions it tells you until you hear a snap, but I just push them in until you get the inner peg on the side leg in deep enough, so it's not going to connect with. It's going to connect on his lower torso. Okay, so you may have to move a few things out of the way, like those flaps right there, and the chest plate may need to be moved out of the way. But you push it in more until you get that connection. So and usually it's better for one side or the other because I do one side at a time, not both sides at the same time, because the legs are so articulate. His hamstrings are so articulate that they kind of get in the way. So that's why I do it separately. And I push it in all the way in. And once I get it there, it should be easy. It should fall back into place. And then you make it tight again. So after that's done, you can take the chest plate and you fold it back. And that window, that little window, that driver's side window or the right side, folds out and you can hook it back in to keep that in place. Then you fold up the legs and you can take out the wings now. And once you have that in order, you can fold that back. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you can take out the hatch. It's one of my favorite parts. And you can replace the head with the bird's head. And you adjust that. And then you can fold the legs in. And then those legs come down and you can adjust it. And that's the bird mode pretty much. So you can pull his head out, open his mouth, and he looks vicious, I gotta say. But then, like I said before, it's better not to fold the shoulder flaps out because they don't allow the arms to close in on the bird's chest. So I had to really go back and undo those flaps and put them back where they were. So and really in both modes you really don't see his faction there. So you take the rocket, you put it together and you attach it right there. Now that's old school. They'll tell you to put the rocket on the back there. But before that, I'll elaborate on the old school in a second. But what you're going to want to do is take the landing base or the launch pad and you attach it to the bottom of the rocket, and then you clip it in. There's 2 black clips in there that you clip in right there, and you fold the bases back, the rocket launch pad bases back, and that's his form. Then you want to attach the weapons. You start with the LMG or the light machine gun. You put it on one side where the fist pegs are. Then you put a satellite there. And then you take those mini rocket launchers and you put them under his wings. They attach right there. Adjust here and there. Bring the wings out. And those wings are articulate at the tips. I think he's either a Condor or a Vulture, but this is his Decepticon mode. Obviously his Decepticon mode. Once again, his transformation is very much like the G1 version. My favorite part is the hatch. His launch pad is in the shape of a tail feather. If you look closely at its etching, there's small little marks there that add to the aerodynamics, those little grooves, those little slanted grooves that go in the direction of the other parts. Especially the wings that add aerodynamics. His wings are very nicely detailed and articulate at the end to add more to his bird of prey look. So here he is next to Leader Siege Shockwave, and his wingspan is actually the size of the length of Siege Shockwave's battleship mode. His head is detailed, and it has the same color as his face in his robot mode, making him less trustworthy in my book. The added teeth and tongue inside his sharp beak that opens and closes is also a nice detail. His weaponry fits nicely in the ports, and there are ports left over for more weapons. With only 2 feet to stand on, they made sure he was balanced and able to stand on those 2 legs. The directions say to have his rocket on his back, but I prefer it this way because it's sort of old school and it makes him look like a bomber as well as a gunner. I also prefer his satellite attachment closer to the rear for some reason, really because it's more like, he can watch his back and his front. But I think out of all both his alternate modes, this is the better mode because everything from his robot mode is really well hidden, and he looks like a really good bird, a really vicious bird of prey. All in all, this is a great figure for anyone to have in their collection. I highly recommend it, and I wonder if he'll make any appearance in the future, any future Netflix season. So this has been my review of War for Cybertron Trilogy Earthrise Leader Class Double Dealer. If you like the content of this channel, give it a like, subscribe, and click on the bell for notifications of future content from this channel. This is Optimus Frank, and thank you for watching. Until next time, till all are one.